So king on f7. It says in the study we're going to look at rook endgames where both sides have a rook, but one side has a pawn in the 7th rank and the rook is passive or trapped in front of the pawn. Usually they say that the rook is better off behind the pawn, but there are some tricks to win the game. For example, so I think they call this the Vancura position, where if the king is on one of these red squares, they can draw the game. But if they're not, there are some nasty surprises, such as a check and then a promotion, or in this case, a skewer. If they take the pawn, then rook h7 is a skewer. So I'm just going to waltz over there to the pawn. They can check all they want. They can't check forever. What do I play here? Tough decision. All right, cool. So this one looks like we're looking at a draw. Basically, if you just keep your king on one of these squares, you can't lose. Only with this rook pawn situation. If they didn't, so if it was a different kind of pawn, the king would run over to the empty square that's slightly off the board. I mean, if that square existed in this example, it would be on the edge. That's what I'm saying. So if it's slid over, the king would go to like a7 or b7 or whatever. Oh wait, shoot. I just made a move while talking. Very bad. You didn't like that? That's what it said to do. Oh, okay. Now we go back to wandering until they hit us again. Then we're going to give checks from behind, which is a standard technique. Even rook a2 is fine here because they're never going to get close to us. Notice that if this pawn was on a6, they could have played king a7. We don't even have to play rook a1. We can also check the life out of them. Lots of different draws here, but I'll do whichever one they like. Extra pawn on g3 has been introduced. Yeah, after the pawn reaches g6, we can't play king h7. That's a big deal. Well, we'll see. The king can't take it because rook g1 check allows rook g8 check, and then a8 queen wins the game. If they took the pawn, we would just do the same thing, rook g8 check, and then promote to a queen, and win the queen versus rook endgame. This pawn, it doesn't matter if they take it. It's immune to capture by any piece. All right, now we have to zigzag back, if I'm not mistaken, and deprive the rook of its checky squares. In the previous position, we could check them a bunch of times and then eventually just go back, as long as we didn't allow king b2. But in this example, we don't have any spare moves with the king, so cool. All right, extra g pawn does not help white, but an extra b, c, d, e, or f pawn does. The reason is that when the pawn reaches here, they have to play king h7, and then f7 is threatening it to promote, so it's slightly different. Again, they can't take with the rook or the king. And again, we get the skewer tactic. What will I play? Okay, cool. Almost done. Yeah, that is a nice pattern. Actually, even if I stop playing chess at some point in my life, I'll probably just keep reading endgame books. I like these things. It's very aesthetic. Why is it so dark here all of a sudden? Oh well. So it's white to play. I have a pawn here. Their king is over there. I'm going to start advancing my pawns. What ridiculous move will they play? I guess I'll just promote this pawn. This zigzag thing is a pretty common pattern in the rook and pawn in games, just for the record. Okay. I guess it wants me to checkmate them. Let's give them the humiliating, checktacular finale. What will they choose? And finally, and finally, hold on. I wonder if rook g2 doesn't lead to a stalemate. If I play rook g2, they could play rook takes c5 check, king takes c5 would be a drop. Then I could play like king b6, rook c6. I could probably force them to give up their rook. I'm actually curious to see. Oh, that was boring. I thought they would sacrifice for stalemate. Maybe we'll give them another chance. Nah, spare me. King on g7, 2 versus 1 on the king side. Well, I want to get rid of the h pawn because I know that the f pawn wins. This extra pawn is superfluous. They still can't take this pawn because I'll promote. Check. Wait, how is that a blunder? I'm still getting a queen and winning the game. Wait, is this a draw? Yo, it's a draw. My bad. My king's not close enough to checkmate them when they're promoting. Alright, so that was a serious faux pas. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be that complicated anyway. What was I thinking? Really? Hmm. Just give them the checkeroni special. What move will they play? There we go. Hochstrasser versus Papa, 2012. That sounds pretty funny. Good move. Outstanding move. Yeah, g4 was much better. But now they're going to get sugged out. Since their rook can't move, I can easily bring my king around. I was going to bring it this way, but I guess they could block me, so this is preferable. I'm going to chase that rook and then come this way. I'm going to go like this. I didn't mean all those arrows, but anyway. I'm going to go get that pawn. Go ahead. Check me. I'd like to see you do it again. Zugzwang. King h6 is not the... Oh, it's the only legal king move. That's right. Okay, so... Thank you. Why does it keep taking my moves back? It's so confusing. I'm just going to zigzag back here. Oh, they're not going to check anymore. I was going to zigzag down and attack the rook, but now I can just freely push the pawn. Freely. What am I going to do here? Maybe I'll just activate my king. Yeah, down here it says they don't force an ERF pawn. Immediately you can tell it's not possible to force an ERF pawn. But if you bring your king like let's see, what's the pattern here? I seem to recollect that the king comes over here, up and over. And then once the king's here, you sacrifice to take all these pawns. I think you really do need to take the slingshot type approach. If they take the pawn, then you just easily win the game with rook g8. Played it already. Play. Good. I've seen this pattern in a couple of games actually. One of them was a game between Carlsen and Nakamura where Nakamura like lost his mind somehow. He um he had a position that was really good, but then he allowed White to get a protect. I'm sorry, I can't remember what color he was playing, but he allowed Carlsen to get a protected passed pawn on the H file, and then they used this same maneuver with the king to win the game. Outstanding move. I don't care about these double pawns. Why can't I take the e pawn? I think they're both of them are good, but why not take it with the opposition? Spassky Torre, forcing an e pawn. Why are we able to force an e pawn here? Hold on, this is a little bit tricky. Due to the pawn on g7, white is unable to sacrifice the a7 pawn. I thought it wasn't even possible though. Well, we'll see. I'll learn something new today. That's good. Oh, it's just... Actually, they could have forced an e-pawn in the last example. I think in the flavor text it said that you really can't, but you could, actually, using the same technique. But here, it's the only way because they've not moved the g-pawn. Come on. It's a little bit touchy, this module. I'm just gonna sneak over here. Don't mind me. Tactically can't take any pawns. I will always say please and thank you when I take your stuff. Alright, this is a Sukswang position. It says black doesn't want to move the rook away from the promotion square, nor from protecting the e5 pawn, so the rook is stuck. King h6 will lose to rook h8 check, obviously. Black could try king h7, but after king f5, g6 check, king f6, black will eventually run out of moves. So, Sukswang. I'll take that, say thank you, and I'll come over here and do the same. We know how to win this. This looks like I've done it before. Why don't we go back to the practice list? Probably that's another bug. It should really take you back to the splash screen when you complete the module. All right, 94%. So all we have to do now is knight and bishop mate.